Hey guys, OG Albina here, bringing you guys my APA Academy Season 2 draft analysis. Now, I am returning to the Academy Season 2. If you guys do remember, we took over for a team about 1/4 of the way through the season last season. We were able to do pretty well for ourselves. We had some pretty cool teams in the whole 4-draft APA format, and we were able to sneak into playoffs where we unfortunately did end up losing to our buddy Silver Smasher, who is a phenomenal battler and all that good stuff. So unfortunately our run was cut a little short, but this season we have a full 12 weeks to draft our own team and hopefully play well and take home a championship. This will probably be the last standard normal Gen 7 draft league that I do before Sword and Shield. So my main approach going into this draft, which isn't Uber's draft by the way, is going to be grab mons that work well together, and mons that I honestly haven't tried yet and that I really want to try. So I figured that was the best approach going into this, because while I do want to do well, I do want to have fun with this league. I have a lot of buddies in here, and with the Uber's format and stuff like that, it gives me a little bit more leeway to try some wonky stuff potentially that I'm usually not really that comfortable with, in all fairness. So first off, we did have the 12th pick overall, and I wanted to grab the most busted thing left on the board that looked fun. There was probably a couple better overall mons, but Deoxys Attack, in my opinion, looks like an absolute blast to use. This mon is ridiculously strong and ridiculously good if supported correctly. Now it has 180, I believe, in both of his attack stats, which is astronomical. Psycho Boost plus Superpower is nuking 90% of the meta, and we can pretty much always go mixed because our bulk is atrocious. So there's no reason in being worried about going minus defense or minus stuff, because we're dropping to a light breeze pretty much anytime anyways. But with the 180 attack stats and 150 speed, we are outspeeding and nuking most of the game. We outspeed a lot of common Scarfers too. I forget the exact speed tier that we do outspeed, but that 150 speed tier, think Mega Aerodactyl or Alakazam, being outspeed stuff like Scarf Heatran, stuff like that. I don't know exactly what it is. I want to say it's 100 and below, but I could be completely wrong. And the cool thing about Deoxys is we don't have to worry about running any bulk or sacrificing bulk in that department if we think potentially a Scarf, I don't know, Heatran, because that's the one that's on my mind, is coming to check this, because of the fact that we're gonna die anyway. So we can just potentially creep any Scarfers that we could possibly outspeed and still nuke things. So this mon is really good. Yeah, like I said, Psycho Boost plus Superpower just nukes things. It has great coverage otherwise, access to priority and extreme speed, and as long as we can scout for potential Scarfers and deter priority, which is less common in the format. Some teams obviously do have a good amount of priority, but a lot of them don't, and hopefully that's something that we can take advantage of. We just have to identify and prep what mons have Sucker Punch, what mons have Quick Attack, all that stuff, and just be ready for it and all that. But yeah, next up, we were allowed to get, so with our Ubers, we had 155 points overall, and we were allowed to get 2 Ubers as long as their point total did not exceed 50. So Deoxys A was 29 points, so the only other Uber that we get was a mon that was in the 21 point range or the 20 point range, and I ended up going with Naganadel second. Now, they don't necessarily mesh super well, but Naganadel plus Deoxys is terrifying. Nothing really takes those two boys on. I mean, some potential bulky seals, I suppose, could live a hit from Deoxys and, obviously live hit from Naganadel, but they both have coverage for both of them. I cannot be Z Naganadel, but regardless, it still does rip through teams. I can choose whether or not I want to be, a speed boosting beast boost set, or if I want to be a special attack boosting set. Nasty Plot's a great option. Choice Scarf, Choice Specs. It has a great coverage, and it doesn't have great coverage per se, but it has the coverage it needs in Dragon Stab, Poison Stab, and Fire Blast for Steel types. Everything else is, it covers pretty much everything in its move slot. Has access to U-Turn, like I said, Nasty Plot. So this is going to be a really fun mod. I'm hoping I can use it well. It's the most bulky thing in the world, so we do need to kind of invest in our bulk a tiny bit here, but I think that's something we can kind of build around later. And like I said, I'm in this to try mons that I really want to use, and I never got to use Naganadel. I wasn't playing too much draft when Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon came out, and some leagues tried allowing this thing, and I haven't been in the Ubers leagues where I felt like it was worth drafting Naga, so I figured this was a great opportunity being that it came back around to me. But yeah, Next up, I ended up going Jirachi. Now, Jirachi gives me a good steel type, for a fairy type switch in. It gives me good wish support, a good stealth rocker, a ridiculous support move pull. It gives me a good choice Scarfer as well. I figured Jirachi is, a very, very valuable option right here. It is double psychic. However, I wanted a, bulkier psychic type that wasn't Deoxys, because Deoxys isn't, Deoxys doesn't resist anything. Regardless of typing, it doesn't resist anything. So I figured Jirachi, could fit that role for us. However, we don't have a bulky psychic that takes on fighting types, so that's going to be tough. If you know me, I always draft really fighting weak drafts, and this one's not too much of an exception. But hopefully we can play around that kind of stuff. But I figured Jirachi would be a really cool mon to use. It's another mon I have not tried in Gen 7 draft. Actually, no, that's wrong. I tried it in my first ever league, and I think I was so inexperienced. I brought Scarfrachi every week, and I think now that I've played more and I have a little bit more experience, I think doing that is an absolute disservice to this monster. Calm Mind is really good. Like I said, Wish, like Spadef sets and bulky sets are great. Has access to Cosmic Power if I need it. It has access to Recycle, which is another cool thing if you want like a Recycle Berry set. It's a good choice Scarfer. It's just a really solid mon overall, and I'm really excited to try it out. I figure like it can kind of blanket check a lot of the mons we really need it to. It's also a good switch into opposing psychic types, which we don't have at the moment, which we didn't have before, so I figured this could, be really, really nice. And speaking of bulky psychics, I wanted to make sure they weren't a problem for our team, so next up I grabbed Tyranitar. Now, Tyranitar is another mon I have not used in draft, and I figured having this to deter the psychic types of the meta would be great, because they're actually some of the it's honestly the type I think takes on Deoxys the best, other than potentially Steel, but we do have Superpower for most Steel types, and Thunderbolt for Steel types like Skarmory, Celesteela. Psychic types can, resist that pretty nasty combination of Psycho Boost and Superpower and all that stuff, or Focus Blast if we go full special. So having a mon that can potentially, take those on really well is super, super nice. It gives us another Stealth Rocker, so Rachi isn't forced into that every week. Very good Spadef tank with like Sandstream plus its natural bulk. It gives us potential Setup Sweeper and Dragon Dance, which is another great thing. We didn't have really a mon that boosted its speed yet, so that's really nice. It also can run like Rock Polish weakness policy sets, stuff like that. Just a very, very solid tank mon overall, and I figure it fit the team very, very well right here. Now, next up, I wanted to grab Rotom Mow. I wanted pretty much every other Rotom type before this. I got sniped a lot in this draft, unfortunately, and I originally wanted Rotom Wash because it gave me great momentum in a Volturn, Corn, Jirachi, and Rotom, because I feel like that's something that Deoxys absolutely loves, is potentially that slow U-turn, that slow Volt switch, or just the Volt switch U-turn on the switch, and getting in Deoxys for free is kind of my whole MO with this team. So I wanted Rotom Wash, got sniped of that. I wanted Rotom Heat, got sniped of that, and then I ended up going with Rotom Mow. Now, Rotom Mow still does fulfill the roles that we really need it to. It gives us a Defogger, which we didn't have before, so if we're not bringing Sand and we want to bring like a Sash Deoxys, we have that option to defog away those rocks and spikes. It gives us, a ground immunity, which is great. Our whole team is pretty much weak to ground at this point, which isn't great. Like I said, Deoxys obviously isn't weak super effectively, but any mon that's carrying Earthquake is going to knock it out, so that is something we have to take into account. This gives us an immunity to that. And it's neutral to 1,000 Arrows. When we do play the few Zygarde teams, it's going to be pretty tough when this is going to be our main way of dealing with ground types. But at least, unlike the other Rotom forms, it's not super effective. It does still take it neutrally because we are a grass type. It does give me that semi-bulky grass type. It has access to Pain Splint to keep itself potentially healthy. Leaf Storm's a good nuke. And yeah, it's just a really solid mon overall. I always love using the Rotom forms, and I figured this one fit the team the best out of the few remaining ones. It was this, Frost, or Regular, and I figured that Rotom Mow fit it the best in my opinion. It was a little bit bulkier than the others. Rotom Frost is a mon I'm grabbing in round, 5 at this point? Yeah, so definitely thought Rotom Mow was my best bet here. It also, like I said, secured me a grass type and all that. So next up, we ended up grabbing Volcanion. Now, we were getting pretty, I was kind of starting to worry about ice types potentially. Ice type and water types. This gives me a good switch into both. Being a water immunity and being a 4 times ice resist. It gives me a, semi-bulky water, which is great. That fire typing on top of that isn't great, but this is another mon I really did want to try out before Gen 7 ended. Steam Eruption is just Scald, but Hydro Pump pretty much, which is a really broken move. Really strong Wall Breaker if we do decide to bring it. I love the Sub-Toxic sets for other bulky waters that think they can kind of switch in on me and take me out. Has access to Earth Power, which is really cool. Has access to Defog, which is also really cool. I can use this as like an emergency defogger if I really need it. Flame Charge is also a very viable set in my opinion to boost speed, because this thing, like I said, just hits ridiculously hard. So if we can get a Flame Charge off and start throwing off, you know, like really, really strong Steam Eruptions, Fire Blast, all that stuff, that's going to be phenomenal. I figured Volcanion fit pretty well on the team. Again, we are very ground weak up to this point, so that's something that we can hopefully patch going forward. But I figured other than the ground weakness, it pretty much patched other weaknesses very, very well. I figured it and Rotom-Mow fit together pretty darn well too. It's kind of deterring those bulky waters from wanting to come versus our team to take on things like Tyranitar and like Scarfrachi and stuff like that. So yeah, that is going to be Volcanion. Now next up, we ended up grabbing Piloswine. Piloswine was a great low tier mon that I really wanted to grab. It gives me a ground type, so I do have that electric immunity, which is great for Volcanion. Thick Fat, so it's essentially an ice resist, so I don't have to worry about having a ground type that is weak to ice. And I do have a Mega in mind that I grabbed much later, because up to this point most people had grabbed their Megas, so I kind of wanted to wait on it, but I knew which one I was grabbing at this point and I didn't think anybody would snipe it. So spoilers, it is going to be a ground type, and I wanted a ground type that wasn't weak to you know, ice and stuff like that. Could be so electric types can't just slap HP Ice and run Volt Switch and then kill my one ground type with HP Ice and then keep Volt Switching around. So it's a good secondary ground for the mon I have in mind later. Gives me another Stealth Rocker, so we have 3 up to this point. Well, Deoxys Attack has Stealth Rocks, but I don't really want to click it. It also has Spikes, but I don't really want to click it. I want to click buttons and kill things with Deoxys. So that's I want to have hazard support on the rest of the team, so I'm not pressured to ever feel like I have to bring Spikes or rocks on Deoxys. But yeah, very bulky mon. Ground and Ice Stab is absolutely amazing, even if this isn't like as offensive as like Mamoswine. It still has base 100 attack, and that stab combination is nuts. It hits pretty much everything in the game. So I figured Piloswine was a very nice addition to the team. It can take ice hits and, you know, throw off super effective stab moves and stuff like that. It's not necessarily a resist, but it does kind of patch the problem a little bit. And then next up, we grabbed Staraptor. Now Staraptor was 12 points, which is a little expensive, you know, to grab him on like this, but I figured having that option as, you know, a good choice Scarfer. It gives me something else at the 100 speed tier. Its dual stabs are really nice for breaking down teams, and I believe our team can kind of deal with the mons that, you know, would potentially resist those dual stabs very well. It gives me, you know, an Intimidator if I want to go like a more bulky route, which I've definitely done in the past before. Like I said, good defog, good momentum, and I want that good momentum option just for my Deoxys to be able to kind of go in and click buttons. And it also kind of takes that base 100's choice Scarfer roll off of Jirachi, because I don't like running Scarfrachi unless I absolutely have to. I feel like it's so much better of a mon than to slap a choice Scarf on it. So Staraptor gives me that option. It gives me another good wall breaker and all that stuff. Now next up, I grabbed Froslass. I wanted Spike support for the team. My defog options are alright. I have, what? Rotom-Mow and Volcanion, and Staraptor. So they're not the absolute best. So I figure in a lot of games, I'm going to have to force my opponent to defog rather than me defogging myself. So I wanted to pick up Spike support that wasn't Deoxys attack. It also gives me a fighting immunity, and I'm very weak to fighting types up to this point. I pressure them offensively. Defensively, I don't take them on very well, so this at least gives me an immunity to like Scarf High Jump kick ones like maybe Mienshao or something like that. Or like a non-bullet punch like a Medicham or something like we can outspeed and revenge it. Or, you know, a Mega Gallade. Just, it gives us kind of, it makes our opponent think twice about clicking a fighting move at the very least. It's good with Will-O-Wisp support. We can run Sash sets to guarantee live a hit if we're not running Sand. And we can get up our hazards. We can taunt the opponent. We can Will-O-Wisp them, Ice Beam, Shadow Ball. Very good. It has niche mashups offensively every once in a while where it can do a decent amount of work. And I'm hoping Froslass can put in a little bit of work for us this season. Not going to come to every game, but having that Spikes option with the surplus amount of rockers that we do have, I figure forcing our opponents to defog and chipping things in the range of like Deoxys attacks, extreme speed, so that we don't have to worry about them being a Scarfer priority, because we will, you know, get off the extreme speed and knock them out. So yeah, that's going to be our Froslass. And next up, I grabbed Stoutland. Now, Stoutland is another fighting weakness, but it gives us a ghost immunity, which is nice. That's not Staraptor. So we have double normal, so those types, spamming Choice Scarf Shadow Ball isn't a very viable option for us. It also gives us something to abuse the sand. 1 out of 2 mons that abuse the sand, actually. But it gives us something to abuse that sand. We are able to, throw off really strong returns, facades, stuff like that. It can be a great cleaner in specific games. Can be a great breaker in some games. It's like a choice band set. Has access to work up, which is really cool. And it has a decent support move pool. It has moves like Yawn, stuff like that. And it has access to Intimidate and Scrappy. So two other really good useful abilities. I figure for 5 points, it was a pretty nice steal. There wasn't anything else really down there that I was looking at other than our last pick, which I knew I was pretty much getting based on what everybody else's teams have, which is going to be our Fairy type. But before we grab that, I did end up grabbing my Mega and Mega Garchomp. So we do have double ground, but I think Piloswine is going to take on the role of defensive ground while Mega Garchomp just nukes things in sand. That being said, Mega Garchomp is incredibly bulky. Unless you're like a Stab Ice Beam, you're not knocking this thing out with ice coverage most likely, unless you're like Specs or something crazy or Z-move. This thing is ridiculously bulky and it has like base 170 attack or something like that, which is insane. Sand Force is going to boost those Earthquakes up to like ridiculous amounts. And it also, this league is not first turn Mega, so I essentially have kind of a no item regular Garchomp. For a time, if I want to, run a speed and keep it unmegged, I can totally do so just to keep that nice speed tier over that base 100 for that 102. And then if I eliminate those threats or I want the extra bulk and extra power, I can throw off the Mega and, throw off my opponent. So I figured it's a really good Mega for, 14 points and the fact that I can kind of abuse that first turn Mega rule, not having to first turn Mega and all that stuff. So I figure Mega Garchomp will be a lot of fun to try out. It's another mon I have not used in Gen 7 draft, so I am very, very excited for that. And then lastly, we pick up a Fighting Resist, which is good. And we pick up Gramble. Now, Gramble is going to be our Fairy type for the team, which is good that we finally got one of those. It's going to serve as our main Fighting Resist. This mon is going to come to a lot of games for a low point mon. I don't remember exactly how many points it was because I ran out of space on these slides. But it was a pretty cheap mon for our 12th pick, and I figured it fit the team well. It gives me that Fighting type switch in. Very bulky after the Intimidate and stuff like that. It's a good AV user. Has access to Heal Bell, so it gives us a Cleric, which is nice. This is going to be a very, very important support mon for the team in checking those Mega Lopunnies and potentially those, fighting types that would give us a lot of trouble. Being able to Intimidate and Rocky Helmet those guys down, or just hit them with a big player off or something like that. It has a respectable attack set as well, so who knows, I could even bring like a Choice Band or Life Orb Gramble on week, depending on the matchup it has or something like that. So I figure Gramble will be very, very important here. And that is going to round out our team. Now, I know it's not my best team synergistically. It's kind of all over the place. We have a lot of really glaring weaknesses. We're really weak to grounds. We have 1 immunity in Rotom-Mow, and when we face Zygarde, it is going to be horrible. But we'll have to get through that. And we are very fighting weak. We are relying on a Gramble mostly to switch into fighting types. But other than that, I think the team offensively is terrifying for other teams to deal with. Deoxys attack with the amount of momentum and stuff like that we have, I feel like it's going to do very well. Naganadel potentially nasty plot sweeping through teams, if we're running a speed boosting set or something like that, or Scarf. We have great wall breakers like Volcanion and Tyranitar and Mega Garchomp. Plenty of hazards. We can definitely hazard stack up teams. So I think the team has potential. And my main goal going into the season, like I said, was to be able to try out some mons that I really wanted to give a go before Gen 7 ended. And I believe we drafted a good amount that I haven't used. Let's see. Deoxys, Naganadel, Jirachi, Tyranitar, Volcanion, Piloswine, and Mega Garchomp. So 7 out of our 12 mons are mons that I have not tried in the Gen 7 meta yet. In the draft format, at least. I've used them on the ladder, probably. But that is going to be very exciting. Hopefully we can do very well. And if you guys are excited for the season, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. So you can get our APA Academy games as they go up every week. Starting next week, I'll probably be doing team builders for this. Just like I'm doing with the IPL, just because I enjoy doing that, and I don't want to squish them into one video, because it makes the video like an hour long. So I figured still giving you guys my insight would be cool.